Here's a trick you can do to get a little bit more casting distance from your float or your bobber. Same thing, is add some weight to your bobber. And it's really easy to do. It just basically what you're going to do is take and drill a hole up around the top of the bobber, somewhere up, about 3/4 of the way up, somewhere on the bobber, above the float line, of course, water line, of course. Drill a small hole that's approximately bigger than the BBs you're going to put in there. So what you're going to do, you're going to take some split shot BBs or something of that nature. Some little stainless steel ball bearings would be good because they don't rust. All you're going to do is drill a hole in the float, put in some weight in the form of BBs or split shot, something of that nature, and seal the hole back up. A lot of the guys I've seen, they use some type of plumber's putty or something like that to seal the hole, some kind of a rubber silicone you can put on there. I started using just plain packing tape for mine. I can make up one of those floats real quickly, just quickly drill the hole, put the split shot in there, and then put that piece of tape over it, and it'll last, several sessions before I have to replace the tape. If you really want to be able to heave it out there, something more along the lines of a much larger float as you see here that I use, and I really don't use anything special. I just use whatever cheap floats I've got laying around, whatever I found, whatever I can buy at Walmart. I think the last batch that I made up, I just bought one of those multi-variety packs of small floats to medium-sized floats. They seem to hold up pretty well. Instead of clamping the float on, they're spring loaded, so they're made basically just to clamp right onto your fishing line. Well, I found with that extra weight in there and cast after cast after cast, it kind of wears the line out like that. So what I do is fix the float onto the fishing line. In other words, I'll add a swivel on either end of the float. Instead of where the line would clamp on there, I'll just put a swivel and then tie my line straight to the swivel. So I use 8-pound test as my main fishing line. Okay, come out of the spool, 8-pound test all the way up, tie onto the float, the swivel on the float, 8-pound test right there. Now coming off of the bottom of the float is my leader. Okay, there I go down to 4-pound test. So from the bottom of the float down to the jig is 4-pound test. So to adjust my depth, I just add whatever length I want. Now I've got a 9-foot rod that I use sometimes, so I may have a leader 7 feet long, 8 feet long, 8.5 feet long. So that gives me quite a bit of depth. On those long casts, you're getting out there to the deeper water, so having that ability for the jig to get down there 7 or 8 feet, I kind of like that, rather than hoping that the fish will actually come way up from that deep water and get a jig only a foot or two deep. Sometimes they will, and that's fine, but at other times I believe they tend to hunker down tight on that cover, and unless you get your jig right in front of them, it might mean the difference between catching one and not catching one. So with this technique, I like to be able to go deeper, can adjust accordingly if I need to go back into shallow water, and I think, I need to go down to only 2 feet deep. It's just a matter of changing the leader. Clip that one off, put a little 2-foot leader on there and retie the jig, and I'm ready to go. And